Hello learners, let us attempt a study of a novel written by Anita Desai. The novel is titled Cry the Peacock. We begin with a brief introduction to the author. Anita Desai was born on 24th June 1937 in a beautiful hill station in the north of India. Her mother is German and father a Bengali. She grew up speaking German at home and Bengali, Urdu, Hindi and English outside the house. She began to write in English at the age of 7 and published her first story at the age of 9. She was a student at Queen Mary's Higher Secondary School in Delhi. She received her BA in English Literature in 1957. The following year, she married Ashwin Desai, the director of a computer software company and the author of the book Between Eternities, Ideas on Life and the Cosmos. They have 4 children, including Booker Prize winning author Kiran Desai. Her children were taken to a seaside resort near Alibag for the weekends. This is where Anita Desai set the novel The Village by the Sea. For that work, she won the 1983 Guardian Children's Fiction Prize. Desai published her first novel, Cry the Peacock, in 1963. She considers Clear Light of Day her most autobiographical work. It is set during her coming of age and also in the same neighborhood in which she grew up. In Custody, about an Urdu poet in his declining days, was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. In 1993, she became a creative writing teacher at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Her latest collection of short stories, The Artist of Disappearance, was published in 2011. Desai has taught at several colleges. She is a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature, the American Academy of Arts and Letters, and of Girton College, Cambridge University, to which she dedicated Baumgartner's Bombay. In addition, she writes for the New York Review of Books. Anita Desai's house was built in the 1840s on top of a hill to the north of New York. From it, she can see the Hudson River flowing by and a village that's almost English. It's so small. A train, similar to the ones she saw as a child in the Indian hill station, Mussoorie, where she grew up, chugs down to the city. To her, it's as if the 3 countries have somehow merged on a psychogeographic level. A concerned social visionary, Anita Desai was a keen observer of the society and the position of women in the contemporary society draws her special attention. Her novels are explorations of the contemporary problems, which perhaps is the chief cause behind the estrangement of women from their family. However, in the later novels, the key theme which Desai is concerned with is the Western stereotyped image of India. The life of the unprivileged class was also important to her, and she has depicted the deprived and dispossessed class in some of her works. She once wrote, "I see India through my mother's eyes as an outsider, but my feelings for India are my father's, of someone born here." She does not consider herself part of the Indian diaspora. She considers herself lucky for having not left India until late in her life, because she feels that she has been drifting away from it ever since. I can't really write of it with the same intensity and familiarity that I once had. Yet, she cannot feel at home in any other place or society. Anita Desai prefers the word pattern to plot. She says, I prefer the word pattern to plot as it sounds more natural and even better. If I dare use it, it's Hopkins' word inscape. Plot sounds arbitrary, heavy-handed, and artificial, all that I wish to avoid. Cry the Peacock is the story of a young girl, Maya, who is obsessed by a childhood prophecy of death and disaster. The author builds up an atmosphere of tension as torrid and oppressive as the Indian summer, both in the crowded, colorful city and the strangely beautiful countryside. The story deals with the psychological consciousness of the female protagonist and uses detailed images, monologues, and flashbacks. Cry the Peacock is the story of a woman whose own world collides with her husband's practical world, thus making her feel dejected, lonely, and demoralized. At the surface level, Anita Desai's Cry the Peacock is a lurid tale of a disgruntled wife, Maya, murdering her mismatched husband, Gautama. As we go deeper, the various layers of its structure unfold. One wonders at the cause of the bizarre murder. One becomes aware of the major role played by the prophecy in shaping the mental attitudes of Maya. These are strongly influenced by her belief in fatalism, horoscopal prediction, and the mysteries of tantric lore. At a deeper level, the reader is interested in the portrayal of Maya's madness. At another level comes the poetical structure characterized by evocative use of myth and imagery, combined with an extraordinary prose style loaded with descriptions and highly suggestive sentences. Cry the Peacock may also be seen as the story of a woman striving to experience a meaningful life with poise and sensitivity. We now attempt a brief summary of the story. Maya, the somewhat spoiled daughter of a rich aristocratic family in Lucknow, is brought up by her doting father, since her mother died very early in her life. The excessive love Maya gets from her father gives her a lopsided view of life. She feels that the world is a toy made especially for her, painted in her favorite colors and set moving according to her tunes. She is given in marriage to Gautama, her father's business associate and friend. He is much older than Maya. He is not a romantic. In the 4 years of their married life, Maya feels completely neglected. She is deeply frustrated and hurt by the discovery that he is totally indifferent to her physical charms. Extremely frustrated, Maya looks back to the days of her childhood spent with her father. Reminiscing about those days serves as a kind of defense mechanism to set her free from her frustration and conflicts. But that does not actually help her for long. Perhaps vulnerability is of necessity tied to Maya's extreme sensibility. She notices and even sensually experiences the color of every sunset, the scent and shape of every blossom, attributes to these things a uniqueness and value which others would not observe, much less cherish. One of them, Maya or Gautama, will die in the 4th year of their marriage. This prophecy, made by an astrologer in Maya's childhood, which is dismissed by her father, but it comes back to torment her during that ominous 4th year. For months, she lives in fear of her own certain death. As time passes, she comes to reflect more and more intensely on the meaning of life, to appreciate it, to further develop her already extreme awareness of the world's sights, sounds, smells. But as Maya desperately tries to imprint life's experiences on her memory, thinking that her days are numbered, she comes to savor life all the more. If Maya were to express her true feelings about life to Gautama, she might suffer dismissal. It seems much safer not to reveal her true feelings at all and keep her thoughts to herself. But after a point, they can no longer be contained. She describes the artificiality of her conjugal life. It was discouraging to reflect on how much in our marriage was based upon a nobility forced upon us from outside and therefore neither true nor lasting. It was broken repeatedly, and repeatedly the pieces were picked up and put together again, as of a sacred icon with which, out of the pettiest superstition, we could not bear to part. The impact of this excruciatingly dull and painful life on the somewhat abnormally sensitive wife, that is Maya, is to make her hysterical and eventually mad. Gautama remains so lost in his work that Maya finds him oblivious even to the dust storm that has raged one afternoon. When she asks him to accompany her to the roof of the house to enjoy the cool air, he accompanies her, but lost in his own thoughts. As they walk towards the terraced end, Maya looks enraptured at the pale, hushed glow of the rising moon. She says, "I saw the moon's vast, pure surface, touched only faintly with petals of shadow, as though brushed by a luna moth's wings, so that it appeared a great multifoliate rose, waxen white, virginal, chaste, and absolute white, casting a light that was holy in its purity, a soft, suffusing glow of its chastity." When Gautama moves in front of her, hiding the moon from her line of vision, in a fit of frenzy, she pushes him off the terrace over the parapet to pass through an immensity of air down to the very bottom. It remains in the end for Gautama's mother and sister to take away Maya, now completely insane, from the scene of the tragedy away to the house of her father. The novel is said to be open-ended, and it calls upon the reader's imagination to draw conclusions about Maya's fate. One could interpret that Maya committed suicide. A few others believe that she is perhaps waiting before being put into an asylum. As a murder story, Cry the Peacock is lurid but flat. Even the possibility of a sensation is strangled by hushing up the murmurings of scandal among the servants. And Neela, Gautama's sister, rudely cuts off Pom, the journalist, when she tries to take the story of Gautama's death to the papers. The incident of murder does not excite or even interest the average reader. Cry the Peacock may be looked upon as an exotic tale of madness and murder caused by the strange interaction of fatalistic superstition and romantic egoism in the sensitive mind of Maya. That we do not totally understand Maya should not give us cause for complaint about the author's craftsmanship. Think about how many of us completely understand anyone, even ourselves. Anita Desai has attempted to give us a glimpse into the mind of a particular woman during one short but critical period in her life. She has chosen a difficult task but handled it admirably well. The Indian environment in this novel is deliberately depicted as mysterious. Though set in familiar Indian scenes, like many Indo-Anglian works of that time, it was meant for the rest of the English-speaking world. And so, India is deliberately depicted as alien and strange. The inner scenario is the occult influence of the prophecy of death made by the albino astrologer, working fatally on the sensitive mind of a young, romantic-minded girl, frustrated in her dreams of beauty and color and passion and excitement. It is fed on superstitions and fatalistic beliefs. The inner landscape is matched by the exotic look of North India, accompanied by the sultry heat in the Indian summer waiting for rain. In such a setting occurs a killing of an extraordinary nature. The mood of mystery in this novel is enhanced by haunting memories of the obscurantist childhood prophecy of death, slated for the 4th year of her married life. As she enters the fateful year, her pet dog, Toto, dies. The brooding, sensitive Maya takes it as a premonition of the prophesied death, even though the prophecy had been discounted at once by her father. The horoscope was destroyed and the hushed up content is almost forgotten, but not completely. The dog's death creates a turbulence in Maya's mind. Looking at the structure of the novel, we may say that it has 3 parts. The first and the third can be considered the prologue and the epilogue of the novel. The first part of the novel describes an event which reveals the inherent qualities of the protagonist, and yet the reader is not told anything about their identities. The second part reveals the gradual stages by which Maya moves from sanity towards insanity. It comes to a close with Gautama's death. The final section, which acts as the epilogue, provides a powerful picture of the effect of the calamity on the main characters. The death of a pet is all that the novel reveals in the beginning, at a point of least supposition, and ends at a point where the reader feels that he knows all about Maya and Gautama, and hence he is not shocked by the end. Maya has very strong affinities with natural creatures. Peacocks are exotic creatures of the wild. They indulge themselves in the dance of death, or at least, according to the myth. A peacock's cry is a loud, unnerving, eerie scream, like a cry for help. On top of fighting for the most potential peahen mates, peacocks also fight to rank highest in the peacock pecking order. Fights among peacocks are hostile, violent, and can get pretty gruesome. Maya is so possessed by the vision of the albino astrologer that she recalls his talk about the myth surrounding the peacock's cry. Listening to the cries of the peacocks in the rainy season, she realizes that she could never sleep in peace. She is caught in an inescapable net. Being intensely in love with life, she turns hysteric over the creeping fear of death. She wonders, am I gone insane? Father, brother, husband, who is my savior? I am in need of one. I am dying and I am in love with living. I am in love and I am dying. God, let me sleep, forget rest. But no, I'll never sleep again. There's no rest anymore, only death and waiting. For Maya, peacocks represent the evolutionary instinct of struggle for satisfaction. Satisfaction of natural urges, which also implies a struggle for survival. Peacocks mate when they have exhausted themselves in a fight, or that's how they're supposed to do it. And they fight fiercely in order to mate. Peacocks are wise, observes Maya. They are endowed with nature's wisdom. Living, they are aware of death. Dying, they are in love with life. The novel poses certain questions. Are Maya and Gautama like peacocks? Shouldn't Gautama not know instinctively, and shouldn't Maya articulate consciously this principle of satisfaction? Satisfaction of natural urges? Gautama appears totally unaware of it, and Maya dreads her knowledge of it. Ironically, a person cannot become free or satisfied by negating it or by dreading it. Maya relaxes her tension and eases her frustration by pondering unconsciously on how peacocks break their bodies in order to reveal their own pain. Here comes the sense of violence, the feeling of getting killed or killing, which engulfs Maya. The violent desire of killing her husband awakens from her own frustration as revenge against his icy cold indifference and impassiveness. To conclude, we may look upon the story of Maya's madness as quite well conceived and executed in fairly clear outline. The technique of articulating it by means of the narrator protagonist's own analytical reminiscences of episodes, people, and their significance for their confessional is very effective. However, Maya's sensitive love of natural beauty and romance does not mix well with her fatalistic surrender to superstition. That remains the central cause of the tragedy. Alienation from her husband is also not quite convincing enough as effective desperation to become cause for her madness. It does not harmonize with her essentially loving nature or the fatalistic philosophy of faith against reason. Neither can it be taken as the unreasonable exaggeration of a demented mind, the opposition between reason and superstition, represented by Gautama and Maya, is also not brought out very convincingly. Other minor motives, like the slight feminist tendencies in Maya, confused with her sense of alienation in the episode of the garden party, or her sense of social disparity in the episode of the dinner at the Lal's, or Maya's prudery and sentimentalism in the episode of the cabaret dancers, are not quite relevant to the theme and don't seem to support the structural framework of psychological study. Another interesting aspect of the novel is the poetry incorporated into the structure of the story, especially in the inner landscapes of Maya's growing dementia. The hallucinations that plague her, the confessional accounts of her broodings, especially in moments of mental disturbance, and the orchestration of her morbid mind, all these and more are telescoped into the narration with a fine poetic sensibility. While some critics are of the opinion that the style is somewhat marred by excessive repetitions of words and phrases and images, the reader would agree with the reviewer of the Statesman who described Cry the Peacock as a product of a mellowed craftswoman who created a stained glass landscape with details of images, colors and odors. Anita Desai is considered as a writer who introduced the psychological novel in the tradition of Virginia Woolf to India. She is also accorded pioneer status of writing on feminist issues. While many people today would not classify her work as feminist, she believes that this is due to the changing times. The feminist movement in India is very new, and a younger generation of readers in India tends to be rather impatient of my books and to think of them as books about completely helpless women, hopeless women. They find it somewhat unreal that the women don't fight back, but they don't seem to realize how very new this movement is. She also says that her writing is realistic. Desai says, women think I'm doing a disservice to the feminist movement by writing about women who have no control over their lives. But I was writing, as every writer tries to do, even in fiction, to get at the truth, write the truth. It would have been really fanciful if she had made modern day feminists of her female protagonists. Desai's language is unique. She uses the normal Indian English vocabulary for weather, food, clothing and other ordinary things, but she heightens it by inventing interesting, even shocking combinations of words, unusual juxtapositions and arresting metaphors constantly assault the senses of readers, almost demanding that they feel the way Maya feels herself. In no other way could the inner life of such a woman be described or conveyed. Through this novel, Anita Desai gives her readers valuable insights into feminine consciousness. There are many other interesting aspects of this novel that we could explore and study in detail. We will look a little more into detail about various other aspects of the novel in our next class. Until then, thank you.